Everybody. Today we're going to do something slightly different in this live. I'll talk about it in just a second once I can figure out if YouTube put this in the proper distortion. You know, oftentimes it's a 50-50 shot. Good. Today it did it in the right distortion. It's in the right horizontal. So nothing to further have to do there, which is nice. But today in this live, yes, we're going to go over a lot of the price action with XRP and things like that. We're going to talk about the XRP holders that were liquidated in the last 48 hours. We're going to go over the CPI data as well. So I want to transition not just on the charts today, but I'd like to go across the news and notes and just things affecting the community as a whole. Because in the times of bear markets, we got to change things up a little bit. I'm not very happy with the performance of the videos. I don't think we're reaching enough people, and the interest level is waning. So I definitely would like to see maybe grasp at a different part of the audience base. We're always going to do the technicals, but I would like to advance it into a different format as well. So things might look a little different the next couple days. But I want to start hitting some of the headline points as well, because the charts are the charts and they'll predict the news. But I'd like to see some of the data, and I'd like to go over a grand scale of how many people are losing out on tokens through leverage and things like that, because everybody thinks it's a zero-sum game and it's easy and all this other junk, which it's not. So, I would like to go over just, a few different things outside the charts that might resonate with some other people, including a majority of this in the charts as well. We'll touch base on the ramifications of just how many XRP holders were liquidated, what the total amount of tokens lost to retail that was shuffled into the institution's pockets, exchanges, because I believe the exchanges, they build their reserves by retail trading leverage and then getting liquidated, and they just add those as their own. And that's how I believe it's a grand attack to build these holdings. But the first thing we'll start out with is the CPI data. We'll talk about this $1.33, $1.34 level, which the equilibrium is around $1.33. And if we hold that, above that at $1.34, it can become a coiled spring, so to say, to the top side. However, if that spring doesn't coil upwards, it's going to snap downwards, and we need to look at that from a whole scale. We go into the weekend tomorrow, so we always know that that leads its own obstacles as we get into thinly traded weekends. So we'll try to balance the market, balance the traders, and balance just the data coming out so that we can try to build a reasonable expectation. With that being said, let's get into the intro. Good morning. 10:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Friday, April 10th, 2026. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. So before we get into the charts, let's take a look at something that's been released this morning. So the CPI data came out today. So as of April 10th, 2026, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that headline CPI rose. Let's move this over so we can all see it. Rose 0.9% in March to 3.3% year over year, driven by and this was just data released as we speak, driven by a 10.9% spike in energy costs due to the Iran conflict. Yeah, okay, has nothing to do with that. Although the energy spike, it's combined assault, but let's stay non-biased and read through this. Core CPI, excluding food and energy, rose 0.2% monthly and 2.6% annually, meeting estimates this represents the highest inflation level in nearly 2 years. The headline CPI plus 9% month over month. And the crazy thing about this that nobody ever talks about, so if the CPI is 0.9% month over month, that means if you prorate that to 12 months, you're talking about a CPI level that's like 10.8% year over year, which means the cost of goods and the cost that we pay are 10.8% year over year. That's a lot. Energy costs rose 10.9% for the month, with energy commodities jumping 21.3%, marking a record increase. Gasoline price increased 18.9% over the past 12 months. And and oil rose 44.2% as shown in the full March 2026 data. Used cars and trucks fell 3.2% over the year, and medical care services rose 3.7%. The market's reaction, despite the high headline number, markets initially rose on the news as core inflation remained contained, suggesting the Federal Reserve might still have room for rate cuts. The inflation surge to 3.3% annual rate marks a significant acceleration from 2.4% in February. The energy impact, the April 2026 CPI, and that's the Consumer Price Index report, highlights that the jump in energy cost is largely tied to supply shortages related to the U.S.-Iran conflict. The tariff easing some categories such as household furnishing down 0.2% monthly suggests a slight easing of tariff pressures. You can't trust any of this stuff, but this is their numbers. The CPI data release information was the official data is released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The CPI is released on a monthly basis, so this was from March. So that's just what was reported today. So that's things we want to stay updated on. The Crypto Fear and Greed Index is down to 16. Whoa, wait a minute. I think it's been updated. It was 11 to 16. Last week it was at a 9. Little bit high in my opinion for what we're dealing with. We've got the heat liquidation maps that we definitely need to stay on top of, because this is where the institutions, the market makers, and some of the bigger players hide out, and they make rash decisions based on what's going to happen with all of this. So it's always nice to get the let's see, try to find one that I would like to go back to. I guess it's going to be hard. I'm going to have to look at this myself. Okay, I'll just do it myself since it's not saved on there for some reason. That's okay. Not too worried about it. So the Bitcoin heat liquidation map. How annoying is this? Always having to do this. Just do the Google login. It's so annoying because everybody is starting to switch to a pay model no matter who they are. Heat liquidation map. Over the last 3 days, you can see some liquidation underneath, but I'd like to go out to the monthly so that we can get a understanding of what's going on. Oh, yeah, and the CPI is always going to be revised. You're right about that, man. So you can't trust any of the numbers. And thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year at the I Told You So badge. It's just data. Just data that was released, so I want to stay on top of it for everybody. That's all. Let's see the 1 week. Ooh, big liquidation level starting to pile up for people going long. People going long right now. 66,500 is a huge liquidity area. So let's just see how this plays out in the weekly. The 2 weekly for Bitcoin. Yeah, that liquidation is starting to look at all this liquidation down here. And the 2 weekly, we're running out of over the top liquidation. Look at all this underneath. 65,000 area. There's 361 million just at 65,750. What just happened? $384, $280. Yeah, so we got a lot of liquidity stored up in this area. That is interesting to say the least. So you're talking about 4,000 to 5,000 point drop to get to that liquidity, and they will get there. Oh boy, look at this for XRP as well. $1.27, $1.26, $1.28 range. You're seeing clusters of liquidity down here now. This is running ultra crappy right now. But yeah, lots of liquidity down below, not much above. A little bit at $1.40, which we've already tapped into that area one time. So there's more liquidity to come to the downside right now for most of these, for these assets. Bitcoin, XRP. Let's see the monthly real quick. Mr. Stott said, I'm wondering what the time lag of oil tankers and transit has on energy prices. I don't know how the price is calculated. Is there going to be a big hike once the inflated tankers are offloaded? How does it work? It's a heck of a question. We don't exactly know what their fundamental doings are going to be. But right now, we would have to wait until we come out to the next CPI for that to take in effect. So, or you'll get redacted next month. But we need to see the May release from April to truly see that implication here, Mr. Stop. But we don't know. There's a rumor that they're going to charge $1 per gallon. So if they're taking millions of gallons, you know, $1 to $2 million in extra fees, which will be passed on to us. So we really don't know until we get more of a minute understanding of what they're doing. What it looks like to me personally is that they're putting another tax on the citizens of our country and other countries. How do they keep the prices raised? Well, you add a couple $1 million fee, and that initially and will always be pushed onto the consumer. That's just another tax. It's a hidden tax on the people. So all this is a big cohort. And tell me this, everybody. When have you ever seen a war like this with the lack of casualties from each army or each military? It simply doesn't happen. So this is a combined effort from all governments to basically assault people even worse. They're trying to get rid of the middle class and have it divided by two different sectors. The very rich and the very poor. They don't have room for anybody in between. And the resources, they're sick of giving it to the normal people. So just, that's one of the big things we're dealing with right now. And it's why we need to look from things a little bit deeper than just the charts. The normal interest in crypto and retail is gone. People have effectively just threw themselves into the garbage, and they'll come back when they're easily manipulated. But nobody really is paying attention right now. And it's basically the key insight that I can give you. All of retail, besides like basically the core members of this community and other communities that are the core, they're gone. You've seen about a 40 to 50% drop in people viewing in crypto now as a part of retail. They really don't care. It doesn't matter what you tell everybody. They don't listen. And the more truth you give, the farther away they run. So I'm having a very hard time reaching people in my own community. Yes, notifications are one thing. But that's always been a problem for me. Notifications never go out to anybody. So I can only base it on what I see in my own community. I see the lacklusterness of most. I see the doubt from others. And I see others that are just willing to give it in and throw in the towel. But then they'll be the first to come back when we have the first 35% push in the market. I guarantee it. And the problem with that is they're going to be behind. Just like you had a little bit of a resurgence after we had the 10% move market wide from the bottom up a couple days ago. Those people started buying, and before they could even blink, they're down 7 to 8% because they bought the big green candle, even though it wasn't that big. And the relative terms to what was going on in the market, those people come back when the market's already moving. So it's one of those things. Good luck trying to find people unless there's huge drops or huge pumps. Because I am a reliable source of news and notes and charting and things like that, price angles. So people come back because they trust, but they don't stay in the moment. The core members do. But we've seen a significant downturn. I've had 35 people unsubscribe from my channel this week alone. So, you get to see exactly how appreciated or unappreciated your work is. So it's like I run myself to death just to lose more and more members. And it's like sometimes you got to take a step back and maybe not put out as much content. Maybe not do a couple lives a day and just relegate it to one. So, so I don't know exactly what the rhyme or reason is going to be, what I go do going forward. I do know I'll be here every single day, but I'm not going to run myself into the ground and contradict, somebody watching an earlier live just to put out another live later. I'm not going to keep doing that and run myself, rampant. I do like doing the shorts in the morning. I do like doing the live when my son's at school. And I'm not going to put myself in a spot at night if it doesn't fit, to where I'm stressing out over the audience and my family, because it's not worth it. But I do like doing 2 lives a day. It's just if it's not worth it, it's not worth it. It's just, it is what it is. There's no point of mixing the content if nobody's watching both of them. So I've got to find a better way of doing this. So hopefully We'll find a better way. We'll find a better way. This is no different than we've gone through in every single bear market. It happens every single time, except it feels different this time. With retail, retail literally, I think, is so confused now. I think retail is very confused. Um, yeah, that's the unfortunate part. Even the notification, I went live and it sent out a notification, but it says, basically it's telling everybody to come back at 10:15. So, um, but yeah, we've definitely talked about the petrodollar. I'm not focusing on assholes. I'm focusing on reality right now, my friends. I'm telling you the honest to God truth of what's going on. I don't care about the haters or the lovers. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, in a sense, how many people have the mind span or the understanding to actually sit through this. So you've got to hit people in the way that they know best. So I have no hate for people that are giving up in the sector. It's just, it is what it is. I've been doing this for more than 5 years in a row. I've been here every single day, so I know the trend better than anybody. And right now, retail's on a downward trend. So the only thing that the market makers and the hierarchy, like the central banks and the institutions and the market makers, can do to attract retail is, one, they can come up to higher levels. They can come up to higher levels, and they can try to attract the FUD or the FOMO side of town, or we can find ourselves going lower and put in better bargaining. You know, so it's going to be one of the two things. They're either going to rise it up artificially, get people a little more interested, or they're going to drive the price down to try to find more buyers. There's nothing really in between. We do have a nice rounding of the bottom. We have what looks like an inverse head and shoulders possibly formed here now. We've back tested the neckline here. So now it's either we break past this symmetrical triangle in the very short term at $1.3675, or they break down at $1.30, and then ultimately you would start to look at that $1.28, $1.26 to see if we were to come through. And then we would start to hunt those lower liquidity targets. I think ultimately that's where we're going to end up going personally. But it is a lot of back and forth. You have a lot of liquidity being grabbed from both sides. And this is just standard operating procedure when it comes to the way the markets move. And these are the times to learn. Like, these are literally the time to learn. So, clarifying direction is hard. Who knew $1.44 to $1.27 would have so much confliction? Mind is spinning. No, this is a very big area right now. There's a reason why it's stuck in these zones, and I think it's relative. Mine shouldn't be spinning, but because of what we've done, we have imbalances created. We've got lower time frames where you can hit supply up and top, left and right. But yeah, Define being out of here and a couple others is definitely hinders some of the viability as well, because you lose passionate people, but they have their own struggles, so we have to respect that. You know, family comes first. First thing to get rid of is, you know, watching influencers and actually being in tune with like investing and things like that when you have problems on the home front. Trust me, I get that more than anybody. It's a difficult time. So we all pray for our friend that he can find solace and find a solution that benefits him best. But we also respect the fact that he needs some time away. There's a lot of people that fit into that category, especially in the age and time we're in right now. So that's why I always say the best thing we can do when we're in here is we try to be positive. You don't know what other people are dealing with. And let's face it, you know what else got to him? Was the way people were treating people. The way that we were being treated for just trying to help. You know, when you're dealing with it on the home front and then you see your audience and the people that you love and care about criticize and fight and interject things that aren't needed it makes people go away. That's why the power of positivity needs to reign supreme. And honestly, I'm tired of being any part negative. I want to be more influential. I don't like coming on and being that voice of reason, even when it comes to me having to be in someone's face. So I'm not doing that. So it's, that's one of the things everybody needs to realize. How many people that are in here right now, you struggle at home, and this is your one time of solace every single day, not just from watching me, but being part of a community, being part of something more. So we need to make sure to make it viable to everybody as well, especially in these rough times. So that's something I am going to do a much better job of getting back to that point. So, you're not going to hear as much off the wall kind of stuff, and you're not going to hear that. You're going to hear more positivity and not defeatist. Because if you start speaking like that, it gets you into a weird corner. And I don't even care if people want to leave, they leave. The people that stay, I will adapt my attention to, and we're going to focus on the core of the community, the ones who want to learn. If it's not viable for someone, they can always go find another viable community that hits them better. I guarantee they'll be back when the moment hits, when it's the right time. But, it's not we're not supposed to judge each other based on what we want to do. So I'll try to give you the information in the best way I see fit. I'll try to show you in real time how to trade these markets and how to set up your technicals and things like that. There's always your chance for advancement if you want to take the live classes. We finished our 22nd class yesterday, I believe it was. And there's many ways to learn. So, but remember, this is the time that if you're trying to get ahead in these markets, you got to pay attention in the bear markets. You have to pay attention in the bear markets. If you wait until the bull market, you've already missed your opportunity. Sure, there's going to be percentages over the top. But most people that trade only the bull market and never pay attention to the bear market, they miss out on that ultra buy-in in the bear market, and then they stress out the entire bull market because it's always up and down, up and down, up and down. So, yeah, so that's the way that I want to approach this, and that's going to be the difference, going back to the positivity over negativity, and just making sure that everybody has a line in the sand where we're just not going to put up with anything else. And I'm not going to comment or read anybody else's comments that might be negative because it doesn't matter. Everybody needs to vent. So that's how we're going to approach it. And we're just going to put the details out. So one thing, so if we did push back up, it'd be $1.53 at the top end of this bigger symmetrical triangle. Do I necessarily think that's going to happen? I think it's going to be a little far-fetched to get through the imbalance at $1.44 at the top end. But never say never. This is technically, unless this breaks down, this is technically a positioning that can hit. Because we have this inverse pattern set up, you always have to pay attention until it breaks down. Looking at some of the other charts, it was pretty interesting what XDC did yesterday. It pushed back down to the support structure again. So if we're looking for some kind of decision or deciphering, XDC came down one more time. Could have been the inverse right shoulder being put in, or just inverse setup. We have much more definition of what's going on here as well. And I'm trying to build a baseline, not just with XRP, but to see what some of the similar tokens are doing in this time. And we're starting to get a little bit more of a definitive look here at what's starting to develop, even for XDC. I think it's pretty clear when we start looking at it in this sense that we do have another symmetrical triangle built, and these are continuation patterns. So we would need to break up past that section for this to continue to break out of this descending wedge on the back test. And once it gets out of this consolidation, then you can start looking for the transcendence up to that 3.46 area. As of right now, we're stuck in the middle, so we're waiting to see a breakout. That's a little bit of a volatile candle spike up, just with how it looks. So we'll see. Remember, you want the candle body to close outside of the actual consolidation, not the wick. The wick doesn't matter. That's just overzealous buying or selling. But you want to see the candle body closing out over the pattern consolidation so that you can get confirmation. We've had the same kind of volatility with VeChain. I mean, look at this even in the 2-hourly. I mean, this is kind of the thing I'm talking about. Like, look how this worked. The hourly, how many people do you think were looking at this and saying, oh my God, it went up to 755? And look how long it took. And look what happened. Extreme volume on that candle. And it's been literally in the last 10 to 15 minutes. And looking at this, though, we've come all the way back down from 7,556. So, I mean, is this honestly, does this look like it's anything more than a little bit of manipulation and trying to lure some people in for some sales for the institutions? I mean, that dropped 4.62% in less than a minute after a big jump. So, look at that. So, is it going to come back up and feed into that? Is that giving us a direction? Or was that clearing out stop limits? Was that clearing out some orders that were going to be liquidated in that area and things like that? Or is this the start of another bigger move? That's something we need to ask ourselves. That's something we need to ask ourselves. Is it unusual for something like this to happen on a Friday? Absolutely not. Because what ends up... Nick, thank you so much for being in here while you could be. And thanks for being a very trusted mod along with Crypto Cooter and being in Tom's only 3+ months with the XRP Media, or Crypto Cooter over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Be safe on your way to work. It is raining pretty hard here. So, just be safe on your way to work, my friend. It's always an honor and a privilege to have you in this audience. It really, really is. And you do so much good work. I was watching your stuff on Telegram between you and MQ. It's awesome. There is volume. There is volume right now on that one candle. So now we need to see if that was a fake out. Sometimes you get fake out volume. But this could just be a re-tap back down to try to clear out the rust. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. But that was a very volatile push up on VeChain. So we'll see if that was actually to finish out some of these stop orders that are there. If this is something more, whenever they come down that quickly, it always, to me, leaves a moment of resignation, let's call it, or reserve, because that's an ultra big reversal. So I always want to see what happens. If you look across the board, likely in that same area, we had some kind of push up. I mean, XRP did it more than just in a one candle. But if this wants to come up, I mean, you have a cup that could be building here. We have a larger cup that could be building over the top. We look like we have an inverse head and shoulders set up. It went through the liquidity sweep or supply area. So it looks like we're building on an inverse pattern. 30 minutes a little overbought. If we come into the 4-hourly, we're angled down, but we're trying to reverse back up, but we'll see. Because I do see inverse setups. It's just a matter of can they play out. So, this is going to be something fun to watch going into the weekend. It'll be something that we can continue to update ourselves on, especially going into the weekend. And we'll just have to pay attention to it at a very deep level. MQ, welcome in, my brother, and thanks for being in Tom's Only over 6 months with the XP Predictor, along with Mrs. Stott and Mr. Stott. Thank you all so much for 6+ months with the XP Predictor. Mr. Stott said, just learning both sides of these markets is huge. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. I agree. You got to learn on both sides. Now, let's talk about some implications this morning. So 2,152 XRP traders were completely liquidated over the last 48 hours between the bearish and bullish movement. That came out to $5.6 million. So let's do some math. $5.6 million. So 5,600,000 times 1. Let's just say $1.358. That means instead of taking out leverage, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. Maybe it does. No, that can't be right. How is that right? Divided by 1.34. Yeah, there we go. So with the $5.6 million lost in leverage by 2,152 traders, they could have bought spot positioning. So 4,117,647 XRP tokens with the money lost and fully liquidated changed hands from retail to the exchanges and market makers and institutional investors. So that's a lot of XRP tokens that could have been kept in the hands. Now, I'm not saying all leverage is bad. High leverage is bad. You know, if you're doing 2, 3, 4, 5x and you understand what you're doing, the likelihood of getting liquidated on a 20 to 30 to 40% instant move is slim. However, remember October 10th, we had 60% on some. And it liquidated everybody, even some on some of these movements and some tokens, even 1 to 2x liquidations outside of 1x, 2x and up were all liquidated because there was a greater than 50% market reversal on a single day. So, but right now with those 2,152 XRP traders that were liquidated, equivalent to $5.6 million over the last 48 hours, had they have just been buying even at the $1.36 price, that equals 4,117,647 XRP tokens that are no longer in the hands of retail. It's in the institutions, market makers, and exchanges, which I do believe the exchanges use retail to build their reserves. So I think the exchanges, when it shows reserves, that's people losing in leverage, in my opinion. And there's a fee taken on every trade, so that's on top of it. So I want to put more things like that out, more data like that out myself on a daily basis, because I think it hits home more when you start to realize like what the implications are and how retail is losing so hardcore instead of just spot positioning. And it takes an advanced trader to trade leverage. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. That's why I talk more about spot. There are major opportunities in leverage as well. MQ's a great person to watch in the Telegram when it comes to that front. I'd say he's the foremost expert probably when it comes to that in this community. I consider myself an expert with it. I just don't like to deal with it as far as trying to teach, especially the newbies when I'm watching a general audience. I'd rather steer clear of it most times. So you often won't hear me talk about it. So when it comes to the spot position, now I'm very interested to see what VeChain does. Because of that ultra volatile move, does this become, because this is almost like a spinning top candle now in these smaller time frames, and to see how this could break back down if it doesn't break out. I mean, this could be an interesting momentum moment right now for VeChain and the rest of the market, because it won't just be VeChain if this fails, but if this breaks out after clearing all of the back liquidity now after a volatile push up, this could speak for something more that's coming. But let's focus on XRP real quick. But before we can do that, let's go into the USDT dominance and see if it's still continuing to do what we thought yesterday with getting rejected, and then the push down would be 7.39%. Looks like a bear flag forming. It got rejected at 7.7% as anticipated. But now if that rejection continues, you come down to 7.395%. And it's like, why would that make sense? Well, it's a back test of a breakout of a earlier, but looks like a descending wedge, likely. So it would make sense to tap that area. It would definitely make sense. So with that being said, let's look at like where the total sits. Total still has what looks like a rounding of the bottom, a nice inverse head and shoulders set up until it's not. So this definitely looks like we have a nice inverse pattern setting up as well. Unless it gets invalidated, there's definitely the possibility of pushing into these higher liquidity zones. I like this box right here personally. It's an untapped area, which also fills out the short-term cup. So that's just something to ultimately pay attention to. For Bitcoin up 1.76%, right around 73, pushing outside this ascending triangle formation. I guess you could try to say it's a rising wedge, but looks more like an ascent. It's hard to say. But if it breaks out of this, you'd start coming up towards that 76K area. And then possibly rounding all the way back up into this cup that it could be forming. Nice. It looks like it's rounding a little bit. But we won't know. We need to see if these early morning Friday movements are fake outs or they're starting to push into some breakout formations. There is a lot of liquidity over the top to be taken. There's no doubt about that. The XRP futures chart, which takes out a lot of the fluff, we're still within, well, not quite within if you look at it anymore. Depends how you look at it, though. Is this where you'd want to start it? Do you start it up here? I tend to want to make it work for it. I really want to make it work for it. However, you know, if we're being realistic in the daily especially, I guess I could keep it like this and it would make a lot of sense, actually. Let's just see how this reacts. I'm very interested to see how this reacts. So that's the futures. We're looking at if you get on top of 138 roughly, then you can start making that little bit more push. I am starting to see, however, even if you come to that $1.48, $1.50, pretty interesting when you start to look at this for XRP. Even if I put on the head and shoulders type of pattern, if you start down here, you start building into this area, you come back down, you come back up, you come back down, and start build. Let's say it built into something like this. You could start to see a head and shoulders pattern that could still be built here within even the chart we have set up. And it's like, well, how would it get up to that $1.48 area? Where does it make sense to even do that? Well, we've got one chart that really speaks the truth here when it comes to that kind of setup, and it's this one. If you take out a longer-term symmetrical triangle, and remember, the symmetrical triangle, you're looking for higher lows and lower highs conforming into a triangle pattern. So this would be the way to start pushing up into that area. This would be the way. And it looks like, because they're on inverse patterns, that we very well could start to pump up here a little bit. So, you know, but I want to see if they're fake outs or if we're actually going to get a rip. I want to see if we get a rip here, if we end up getting overall, like we seen with V-Chain. We just seen with V-Chain. We had a little bit of a movement. So I want to see if that ends up being a more defined movement here. I want to see if some other ones do overtake this. Because in a sense, we are overdue. And we've been consolidating. And that move back down yesterday could have just been to clear the rest of the space out. So we know we have some underneath liquidity forming at a very real level now. We have a target right now for H-bar if this doesn't invalidate out of this descending wedge formation. That's almost up at 10 cents. So I would really like to see what ends up happening here. And a lot of times, for whatever reason, on Friday, they give us a huge fake out. And then they know people are getting paid after work. So people, before they even know it, they're like, I want to buy. It just needs to wait for my paycheck. We get a lot of bit of positive. We get a little positive momentum. And then before we know it, by the end of the weekend or beginning of the weekend, it starts to break down. So we just have to be careful. Algo, we know, had a big breakout and it's been consolidating. It hit that liquidity sweep area, this little gappage, whatever you want to call it. And now, I mean, if it wants to come all the way back down, you could, in theory, test that entire pattern breakout. Now, it could be putting in a handle on the cup. So, yes, there's a lot to discuss and a lot to pay attention to over the next couple of days, especially. Because if this is building some kind of handle, like, how far does it do it? You know, is it just coming back down into this area? Is it going to try to come all the way back down into that area? So, a lot to pay attention to, and a lot of these tokens. And sure, people might not be interested in the real technicals. They want to hear some fluffing it, you know, the fluff. But in order to get to the truth, you're going to have to look at the reality. Right now, a lot of these are seemingly pushing up towards these short-term cups. If this plays out like this and breaks out, you're going to come up into that liquidity zone, which would make a lot of sense near 2,400 for Ethereum. Unfortunately, most people who tune into my lives in the morning aren't even going to see this part of the info because they're so short of attention span that they're probably already leaving. So I mean, how do you best put your foot together where you want people to see what's coming? You know, what's the best approach? I don't think there is any best approach right now. I think people are lazy. I think they want instant gratification. I think they have unrealistic expectations, and not feeding into that side of it, it makes it very difficult. If I came on here right now and said we're going to $1,000 in 2 months, you should see how many people would tune in. But it's just, what's the point? What's the point? Do you want it to all be based on a lie, or do you actually want to learn something? Like that's the overriding thing. So, but yeah, we've got a lot of liquidity over the top. It makes it very interesting for this push up to see how far it can actually go, and then to see where it settles. And Elmer, I didn't see it yesterday until I logged off, but your $20 super chat did not go unnoticed. You know, haven't seen as many of the pay it forward support in the, you know, recently, just because what's the point? That's another thing. What's the point? Like, there's not that mindset of people when it comes to trying to find a equilibrium here with the charts. They're starting to go, well, what's the point of the charts? I don't even need to watch the charts. I'll just watch the news. Not even realizing the charts are telling you the news to come, and vice versa. They play off of each other. But it does look like if we're going to get some volatility, you would expect that volatility to come soon, because we are in an inverse setup. So if we're going to get an upward tug, we should see it soon if it's going to happen. We need to break over about that $1.36 area. If I'm being honest, that's the area I'm looking at, $1.36.7. Try to push into that imbalance zone. See if we can get up near that $1.53 that shows on the larger symmetrical triangle. And that's where we're at right now. That is absolutely where we're at right now. Charts predict the news. I totally agree with that. Markets don't like uncertainty. We've had quite a bit pumped today, dumped this weekend. Just my 2 cents, but could be wrong. I don't disagree with that. It could definitely play in that area. Now, we need to make sure that this isn't just finessing us today. I say it every Friday. We want to make sure it's not a finesse game. 11 a.m. is new, your window. Yeah. I mean, we're getting into that window for sure. Let's see what we have a little bit deeper now. Let's just see what we have. And since I don't have to worry about people leaving, I can kind of just do this myself, which is actually, that's the one good thing about this. I'd like to go to the coin glass chart. So the last 24 hours, because I like to do all exchanges. Let's go to 24 hours for Bitcoin first. So for Bitcoin, we have 93.9 million long, 292 million short, 75.7% going short in leverage. Well, if you ask me, that kind of speaks to the fact we'll probably take an upward tug to try to take out some of these shorts. That's definitely a good number to look at right there. Actually, is that not? That's everything. That's all tokens. Let me go to Bitcoin to clarify. Oh my God. 12.68 million long and 163 million short right now. Are you 92.7% are going short right now? Oh, this speaks to an upward tug. This speaks to a short squeeze of the top side. Wow. I don't remember the last time I seen it that high for Bitcoin. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. That's like when you're gambling on sports or whatever at the casino. When you see a bunch of people going one way, the general analysis is they're probably going to take the other zone. Ethereum for the last 24 hours, 21.2 million going long and 47.43 million going short. 69% are going short over the last 24 hours on Ethereum. What about for XRP? Oh, see, XRP is much more balanced. 672,000 going long, $771,000 going short, 53.4% going short on XRP. But man, the one that gets my attention is Bitcoin. When was the last time you seen Bitcoin have 92% going short at the same time? Wow. That is actually unbelievable. 92.4% going short on Bitcoin in the last 24 hours. That's a pretty high consensus of where retail thinks it's going, or even the ones who are taking leverage, which most times leverage is taken out by retail so that they can hit higher dollar amounts. It's just that simple. If you got millions of dollars, there's no reason to go short. I mean, there's no reason to leverage. It's just that's the way it goes. Why would you leverage if you've already got that money to go out and spot? But that is a lot of leverage liquidation, or a lot of leverage going short right now. No, going short means they predict the price to go down. 92.46% of traders are taking leverage to the downside. To the downside. So if I was a betting man, and not even looking at a chart, just looking at the liquidation level or the leverage positioning, I mean, I would tend to say we're probably going to take an upward rip for Bitcoin, and that 75 to 78K liquidity zone all the way up to 82 might get tapped into. I mean, that's a rigging of highest riggings right there. They want the price to go up, attract a little more retail, and then they can offload positioning. That's how it works. Wow, that is a lot, man. That is a lot. That's a lot, to be honest with you. Holy smokes. Ethereum's not as bad, but it's still at 68.9% going short. So there's definitely something. I know this information obviously isn't resonating with people, as 7 people have walked out the door while I'm sharing this. What are you going to do? I can't do anything about it. And then from a grand scale, if you take into account all cryptos, 75.3%, so 3/4 of leverage traders are going short right now. That's a lot. That is a lot. Well, just look at it this way. If there's 90% of people going short on Bitcoin, let's go back to Bitcoin. If 90%, 92% are going short, there's way more money to go up, because then you liquidate the short traders. They're counting on the price to go down. So if you go up, they take out the shorts, but this can be the fuel to push us farther down if they do this advanced liquidation. So now you look at Bitcoin and say, well, damn, 90-something% are short. So it made sense to take this initial upward tug. So look, over the last 24 hours, all those people went short, right? So let's count back 24 hours here and see how much it's actually gone up. And then we'll decide how many liquidations have occurred. So from 24 hours ago would put us at yesterday morning. So the price was around 70,500. So during this time, people are going short. To the top, it had a 3.63% movement. So anybody 25% and up are completely liquidated out of Bitcoin if they're leverage trading to the downside. 20%, you're on the cusp of getting liquidated. You're about 72% down right now. So basically you're screwed. 15%. 15% in the last 24 hours if you're on a 15x, or if you're a 15x trader in the last 24 hours. The top potential, you could be down as much as 50%. On a 10x trade, you're down 37% if you started going short after the drop, because most people aren't going short from this top candle. They're looking at it down here going, I'm going short. But right now, the higher it goes, the more people are going to get liquidated. And it's almost the perfect recipe for a short squeeze here to the top side. This looks like a proper short squeeze that could take place here, if I'm being honest. And we know there's heat liquidation zones on the heat liquidation map. There's liquidity zones that bring us up, and we've marked out if this wants to take this cup up to like 80 to 82 possibly. That's a big area of liquidation that could occur. We'll just see how this plays out. That's a lot of short leverage. 93% or 92% the last 24 hours. So that was a good reason to bring it up initially. Now let's see if it follows through. Like I said, we're going to have to continue to watch VeChain to see how it reacts. Because VeChain, again, you know what? We should look at VeChain to see what kind of liquidation we were dealing with and to see why it went up 5% and dropped it in a minute. Let's see if VeChain's on here. It should be. So in the last, we need to go to 24 hours. 63.5% were long. Interesting. But in the last 4 hours, 65% was short. And you've seen how many people went to the upside. In the last hour, 100% of the money, which isn't a lot of money, because there's not a lot of leverage trading. Let's go into let's go into another way of looking at this as well. So the total liquidations right now, over the last 24 hours, 292 million have been liquidated from shorts. 94.42 million from longs. So we're getting a little bit of an imbalance there. Let's look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin had 12.67 million in longs the last 24 hours liquidated, as we're at 163.23 million in shorts, of a total liquidation of 175.9 million. So they wiped out a lot of shorts. A lot of shorts. So it does give a little bit of the ability to move in another direction. Let's look at XRP. No, not 2 items selected, but it's not going to let me change it. There we go. For XRP, 12.67 million liquidated by the longs. Wait a minute, that's not XRP. What the hell is this? What, it didn't update it? What the hell is going on? I went XRP. I don't want all. I want XRP. Confirm. Okay, I don't know what's going on now, but it's showing me all of them. I would have rather seen just XRP, but whatever. I'll go down to XRP. You've had 1.48 million liquidated, pretty even on longs and shorts for XRP. Ethereum, 2-to-1, basically 20.6 million long liquidations, 47.42 million short. So I mean, damn, there's a lot of liquidations going on here. That's crazy. This. Man, this is the epitome of being like, hey, we're just gonna take out everybody. Nice assault though on the shorts, that is for sure. That is for sure. Um, let's see what else we have. But no, I mean, people going short allows the price to go up at that rate, even if only an artificial spike, because you tap into the liquidity zones and then the money changes hands. So think about it. If you have a bunch of short traders, they know where their limit orders are to the top side, or they know where the liquidation level is to the top. So if you have an institution that's trying to sell out of a spot position and they don't want slippage, they're going to look into those areas where the liquidations will occur the heaviest. And that's where they're going to target the price, and then it'll just reverse when it gets done with the objective. So, I mean, you guys can all learn more about that if you join the class. We talk about this very deeply. We talk about the hierarchy and how it works. But, you know, I can't force anybody to take the classes. You're going to want to have to do that on your own accord. Bitcoin. I mean, it targeted up here a little bit. It's targeting these areas. But let's look at the last 24 hours. Look at that. So it's coming up to target the longs, but what do you think is going to come next when this is finished? You got some big areas down here even. 71 down to 69. You got a nice liquidity area over the top in the last 24 hours created as well, near 74, 75. So it's a lot of stuff that's developing here this morning for sure. I'm proud of the 77 of you that are sticking this out, because let's face it, you want to be part of the 5% that's going to make out of this market. You don't want to be part of the 95% that's going to get obliterated. And every cycle has its own story, and the story of this cycle is the same as every other. Retail gives up at the wrong time. We're back to 2020 levels for the interest in crypto. So, any other news and notes that I need to look at before I call this a segment? I think I've done the best I can do today. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse said Ripple isn't the main driver in the regulatory fight and called XRP a non-security commodity. He estimated an 80% chance the Clarity Act passes by April. We've heard this for months, so how is that news? Anybody who even acts like XRP can hit $10,000 is not a pundit. They're a fudster and manipulator and fear stirrer and FOMO giver. $17 after the next massive breakout is a complete fucking lie, because $6.51 is the target. It's already been put into stone if the cup and handle breaks out properly. So that's facade. That's not even close to being true, so I wouldn't listen to whoever said that, and I'm not going to give it a time of day. XRP versus Bitcoin, who is exposed to quantum computer threats? Ooh, I like this. XRP versus Bitcoin, who is exposed to quantum computer threats? Expert ledger validator VET says XRP appears less exposed to quantum computing risk compared to Bitcoin, after a new audit showed only 0.03% of XRP supply is vulnerable. On the flip side, around 6.9 million Bitcoin, nearly 35% of supply would be exposed, highlighting structural difference in security. Before comparing both assets, first understand the real quantum threat as many people misunderstand it. Each wallet is a private key. Your secret and a public key created from it. Your wallet address comes from this public key. The risk is that a powerful quantum computer could use Shor's algorithm to reverse this process and find your private key from the public key. Here's the part most people get wrong. Your public key only becomes visible when you send a transaction. Just holding crypto and receiving it never exposes your public key. So whether your wallet is vulnerable has nothing to do with your balance or how long you have held it. It comes down to one thing: whether you have ever sent a transaction from that address. A recent audit by an XRP ledger validator analyzed quantum vulnerability across XRP accounts. The findings showed roughly 300,000 XRP accounts holding 2.4 billion XRP have never sent transactions, meaning their public keys remain hidden and quantum safe. Only 2 dormant whale accounts holding about 21 million XRP were found vulnerable. That equals roughly 0.03% of the XRP supply. Experts say this is significant. So basically what they're telling you is the institutions are safe, but retail is very vulnerable to the risk. So I'm XRP Future Millionaire. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I worked for free today, which is not unusual. Oh, no, I didn't. I take that back. We had one gifted sub by Mr. Euler, Joseph Euler. Thank you so much for gifting your sub. And B4U team member got gifted that sub. Congratulations on being in your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. I greatly, greatly appreciate that, given support. I really appreciate that. Tommy, can you hear me? What band sings this? I don't know. My brain must not be working if I'm being honest. So the heat map, the same as the Gaussian, the Gaussian channel or the indicator. I mean, they do work. I mean, I guess you could say in a way they work together for sure, but it's a little bit different. Low 3 says we were always early. Now we will be on time. Let them go first. Not bad. Let's see. Hey, a couple gifted subs. Noob Sauce, thanks for gifting a sub. 3+ months in Tom's Army plus gifting a sub. Driffle Leon, first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. Welcome to the army, my friend. And Scott Lowry, 6+ months with the XP Predictor, also gifted a sub to Maurice. Maurice, welcome back for your second month with the Dust Out House Crypto News. That was very generous of all 3 of you who have gifted a sub this morning. Thank you so much for paying it forward. I generally and thoroughly appreciate that so very much. The XRP market cap, again, has a rounding bottom. These have inverse head and shoulders. So if this plays out, I mean, you could definitely see a push up here, at least to the minimum of 88 billion. Maximum capacity, at least short term, 94 billion if it wants to make that push. We just want to line this up to kind of give us a little objective here. Could hit a third tap on that downtrending resistance as well. It's in a symmetrical triangle. So it'd be interesting to see how this fills out. If this fills out according to this, we've got an upward tug somewhere around 93 billion, which would allow the price to move up into those areas, honestly. The 46 square is a life cycle time financial change example. Gone square of 9 is used in price discovery. Ooh, I like that. I like that. Let's see. I think that's everything. Not exactly sure what else to talk about. I've basically done what I want. We're looking at these possibilities of tugs upward. I mean, V-chain is at 72.5. It had one candle spike up, but it's still working within the 4 hourly is reversing back up. You know, so a lot of this is progressively starting to move now. Now, the ironic part is they came up to 7.3 the day before, now it pushed all the way back down. Now, can we get this the volatility to push us even further? If we do, we could be looking at that 008 and so on and so forth with XDC. XDC made another push back to the descending wedge. And now it's trying to break out of a very short-term symmetrical triangle to give it the firepower. And if it breaks all the way through, I mean, you would expect likely you're either coming to 3.4, you're coming up all the way to here to this 3.76, and then making a bigger decision. First area I would look at is that 3.42, 3.45-ish, if we come up in there. Kick-ass technical class yesterday. Oh, thank you, Bright Future Freedom. Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was great, too. I love Technical Thursdays that we started last week to make a third class per week. So, last but not least, let me promote some of my stuff, even though most people are like, I'm just going to leave when he does that. The classes, if you want to join 3 times a week, you can certainly click on here. If you're looking for leverage or spot, cheaper fees and things like that, BitUnix is right there. So you can just click on that. It's an OKYC worldwide. But anyhow, with the classes, you join and you're immediately able to get the playlist. There's 22 different classes right now. I'm working to try to have a virtual workbook for everybody. I don't know how viable or how hard or easy that's going to be. I need to make a phone call in the next day or two to the person who's going to help me with this. But there's a lot to learn. And then on Thursdays now, I've added in the technical Thursdays. We went over symmetrical triangles the last 2 weeks. We had a homework assignment, went over it. I just thought it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. Why am I bummed out today? This isn't about being bummed out. I just wanted to go from one to the next in a provocative way. I wouldn't say there's no fire. I just didn't want to be as loud, that's all. I didn't want to be in everybody's face. I didn't get that part of it. If you're seeing no fire, you know, hey, that's your own personal judgment. But first thing I said is I don't want to be in everybody's face today, so I wanted to keep it on the down low a little bit more today. Has nothing to do with no passion. It's quite the opposite. I have so much passion, sometimes I have to keep it in check. So don't put it as a derogatory negative or put a negative spin on what I've done today. It's quite obviously the opposite. I tried to keep it at an even balance today. So see, you get judged one way, judged the other way. It doesn't really matter what you do. There's always going to be some kind of, not misrepresentation, but a view that is different than what I'm feeling right now. I was feeling it more of staying a little calmer today and keeping it in line. But I wasn't looking at it as no passion. But I definitely take that under advisement. I just seem down. I don't know if I'd say down. I think I get a little bit too into wanting so many people to succeed and then just seeing people walk away is kind of a little depressing, if you want to be honest. Or seeing so many, not from just my community, but in general, retail. Retail is struggling so hard, but so many people step away, and it's like, you know, it can be a little demoralizing if I'm being honest. But I don't think I sound down. I just think this is how I sound when I'm just trying to put information out with no fuss. You know? Sometimes I sound like this when I'm not trying to be too overly emotional, let's just say. This is kind of like my laser focus sound. This is how I talk. And you know what's funny in my everyday life? When I talk like this, people always say the same thing. What's wrong? Why are you being so quiet? Why aren't you so passionate? Well, passion's lost me 30 people in the last 2 days in my community. So sometimes you got to try to take your tone and do it in a different way. Does that make sense? Imagine going and building a house, and by the time you get to the end of the project, 75% of the work crew's gone, despite learning and making decent pay, but they all disappear during the project. Then you're like, oh, well, I've got to be doing something wrong, so I got to kind of switch it up a little bit. That's how I look at the audience. But no, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's actually been an okay day so far. If I'm being honest. But yeah, this is just, sometimes I've got to take a step back because something isn't resonating. That same with me. I have a demeanor where I have the, especially walking down the street, like the don't F with me demeanor, but it's not because I'm not happy. I just don't want to be fucked with. And the best way to do that is to look like somebody that you don't want to mess with. You know? But the roof, I mean, I'm still waiting for the adjuster to get back with me. It's been almost 3 weeks. Actually, it's been about 3 weeks. But that's a painful process. So yeah, it's that's a painful process. There's a lot of things going on that doesn't meet the eye. Wish I was a master marketer. I would do Have your back, Tom. Appreciate you, man. Oh, I appreciate it. Nah, there's nothing anybody can really do. It all comes down to the algorithm. So, you know, when you, it's like I always say, when you're somebody who tries to be honest with everybody and tries to show what's actually happening, a lot of people don't resonate until it resonates. So, until the market drops under $1, or until we start to break out and start pushing back towards higher levels, most people are not going to be interested. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. But I'm just trying to find a better way to, instead of going, you know, like I did a few days ago, I would rather just stay in tune. I do have an X account. What do I need an X account for? To be shadow banned there too? Same thing happens anywhere you go if you're speaking the truth. Elon Musk is no better than the last person. They just have a better spin. That's all. So yeah. But Oliver's definitely going to be the one who helps me breach this next chapter. Is definitely going to help me breach this next chapter, especially with the class workflow. So I need to make a call and try to figure this out. But that's going to be the next advancement. I think that's going to be freaking phenomenal. So with XLM on the way out, below the symmetrical triangle still, which is still very key data for all of us here, despite all of the movement, we're still below, right around this 15.9 area roughly, right about 15.9. Stay right here, hold this frequency, and we will become it. Absolutely. I mean, an X account for crypto. That's where all the Degans are. What do you mean, like an X account for crypto? I'm not following. I've had XRP Future Millionaire, which I used to put out a whole bunch of stuff on here, but my stuff never gets around, so why waste my time? Yeah, but that's all the hype viewers too. So I mean, that doesn't necessarily fit the agenda. They'll come in here and not see the hype, and then they're just gonna leave anyhow. Cause chaos. Haven't you noticed in my content there's a lot more spammers? And I can delete 150 ones, 150 spam comments, and then 150 more show up. That's not by accident. That's people in the audience that are spamming me. Those are probably the ones who want my channel to not succeed. You know, that's not by accident. You know, but sometimes if I sound like it's just I'm done with certain things, like with YouTube, sometimes, you know, it makes it a pain in the you-know-what because it makes you try to upload it 750 times because I'm doing it in horizontal. And they want it to be in vertical, so that weighs on you, you know. Sometimes being criticized at the ultimate level in comments and getting personal attacked in emails, which I never share. But there's hundreds of them I get weekly. You would be shocked how many people come to my email to criticize me. So, you know, that all plays into sometimes the demeanor. That all plays into it. But I have plenty of awesome core members that I have no doubt we're going to push back into the hype viewers. It happens every cycle. But it's trying to figure out a better way. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. It's trying to figure out a better way. It's trying to figure out a better way. And I think we already do it a good way, but, you know, there are better ways. There's better ways to reach people. XRP hitting that $1.36. Bitcoin right around the 73,000 level. Many different things are trying to push as we speak. Now, is this a dangerous zone? It is. It is definitely a dangerous zone. But there is a lot of these inverse setups that they should play. I mean, descending wedges are bullish reversals, even if it's just the micro. So we should, at some point, unless it's exhausted, we should see some kind of upward volatility. So we'll see how this day plays out. I'm excited as hell to watch this play out. And I know a lot of you are as well, to see directionally what happens. Just don't get yourself caught in an area you're not comfortable with. Be very careful. Be very careful, with leverage because we're getting ultra volatility each way. And, try to find a proper positioning that makes you comfortable. That's the best I can say. Yeah, oh yeah, we're definitely trying to tap into that higher rate. That's something I think we've all been universally waiting for in this community for a few weeks. I still want to see it tap in a little bit higher up into this $1.44 region. I mean, I can't get that out of my head. I don't necessarily know how we can push all the way up to $1.53 because we come through so many zones. And for lack of better terms, I should just delete what they mean and just have those areas marked so people don't get confused. But it definitely seems like we're trying to tap a little bit higher. But again, it's Friday, and it seems like every single Friday we're like a broken record, and we will do this in the mornings into the mid-afternoon. And then by the time people get their paychecks, it has a little bit more of a burst, and then it just seemingly comes back down after. So it really turns you into, I need to be a 24-hour trader, instead of I'm going to hold this for 6 months. Or I need to be a trade on the weekly time frame and see how it is from 1 week to the next, instead of looking how it is 6 months from now. And then still keeping the basic understanding of what the all-time pattern is. I agree with that 100%, MQ. That short cleansing is what I've been waiting for as well. That's why I have so many different ways to look at this. But I'm definitely looking at the understanding that what would give us the fuel to drop down farther, especially if we don't break out of these patterns, is that if you liquidate these shorts, you get a little bit of rocket fuel to drop it through the floor. So sometimes you need extra liquidity to drive the price. And right now, the price wasn't able to bounce through the floor, which means they're going to come up to these higher levels. Or they're starting to target it now. So you do the short cleanse first, and then you come down and you finish it off by dropping the market out. And how ironic is it going to be? Remember yesterday in the live we said, now, when the price goes up, wouldn't it be funny if they come out and now all of a sudden there's a resolution because they said that Israel and the U.S. and they broke the agreement with the ceasefire, and then what happens? Everything starts dropping, and then yesterday, like by design, they come out and say, oh, we've come to an agreement again, and we've come to an understanding, and we're going to have talks, and then the market reverses conveniently. It's the same thing because the charts are telling us what needs to happen, but they keep doing that every single time. And it's always predictable based on where the charts are at. So would you be surprised if they were to come out this weekend and say something that would help finish the narrative? And then we just need to decide what narrative are we finishing. And right now, it does seem like we're putting in these inverse patterns in the smaller time frame that can emulate a bigger rounding of the bottom. No, Carl, not necessarily true. Not paid in Bitcoin, paid in stable coins. There's been rumors of Bitcoin, but that doesn't fly because the price of Bitcoin changes too fast. It's stable coins. People are misrepresenting what is actually being talked about. They actually want it paid in stable and or Bitcoin, but they want it paid in stable coin if they have the choice. Because then the price doesn't fluctuate so much. But yeah, that's another thing. They want to tax us. Absolutely. Carl, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Stablecoin is the request, but all the influencers you watch, I guarantee it because I see it every day, even though I don't click on their trash. They keep saying that they want it paid in Bitcoin, which is a lie. It's a lie. It's a big lie. This whole damn thing is a lie. What we're being told. Then we have paid shills, and that's another part of this whole thing. I'll never get over the top. Because I'm not a paid shill. I could be if I chose to be. But I don't even internally fight with that because I just don't want to do it. What the hell is the point? So now I'm going to come here and take from everybody else. I think that's another way of being a bloodsucker. The problem is retail identifies with those people. Retail would much rather watch the blood-sucking leech piss and moan and bitch and complain about the fact that they're losing all their money while watching some guy who's being paid exactly to shill you instead of coming into a community like mine. That's the honest to God truth. But you didn't make that up yourself. You seen that somewhere else about it being paid in Bitcoin. 100%. You're not making that up. But you got information that was being misrepresented for views. Does it sound better if we say it's going to be paid in Bitcoin or paid in a stable coin? Well, for the fudsters and FOMO givers that want hype viewers, it sounds better if you say it's going to be paid in Bitcoin. So, you know. Oh, he might have seen it on YouTube as well. There's a lot of people on YouTube talking about it. A lot of people on Facebook. A lot of people on TikTok. Is it easier to push hype views to do it like I do? Or to do it like somebody else does when they're saying everything's going to go up a gazillion? You know? The bottom line is they don't want to take the US dollar anymore. They want it in stablecoin and or the yuan. Because that's another part that's not being talked about. They'll equally take it in yuan, believe it or not. Or stablecoin, because they don't want to do the US dollar anymore. So, you know, we're being lied to every which way. I've seen a lot of news articles saying Bitcoin, but I also seen their original request from Iran to start speaking on stablecoin, but the news is definitely saying Titcoin. Absolutely. I seen it too. I read exactly what Iran said, and they said stablecoin. They would never want Bitcoin. It's too that's the exact reason you don't want it to be paid in any crypto. Sure, it's great when it's going up, but what happens 99% of the time when crypto is going down because it's a risk asset? You know? So, that's another thing, you know? A lot of people come in here and they see what I say, but they've been misrepresented so much they think I'm the one lying. Oh, this guy can't be the only one saying this. Everybody else must be right because everybody else is pushing one. That's because everybody else pushes the same article. Everybody watches each other. They just push the same nonsense. It's not just crypto. It's in life in general. Politics, finance, risk on, risk off, precious metals, health, nutrition, fitness. It's all the same. You know, everybody would rather watch an influencer on roids because then they think they're going to get instant gratification. These people don't even need to do proper lifting and techniques or eating techniques. They don't. When you take anabolics, it changes your whole body complexion. You sacrifice your internal system so that you have muscles. I mean, look at all the people that watch those people. It's insane. People, oh, this person's not on steroids. Really? So you think a person that gained 100 pounds of muscle in 2 years is normal? You can work out 25 years, you're not going to gain that much muscle. Or like you get these female people now that are influencers that are just showing themselves in thongs or their tits hanging out. And people will take them verbatim because they got the sex appeal and they go jerk off in the corner. Well, that's not doing anybody any good. You know? That's the same thing I'm talking about. People use sex because it sells. People take roids because it sells, because they have a better body complexion. It's the same, I mean, it's the same thing as crypto. People hype people up because it sells. Not long term, because when you get into the bear market, everybody leaves and they don't support you. These channels rely on ad revenue. That's it. They don't get support from the audience in general, but they feast off of the ad revenue. They get so many views that they don't even need anybody to support the channel. You know? So, you know, sometimes it's just the reality is reality. So, that's just what happens. And that's the reason why I don't get as many viewers as an XRP, the foremost expert when it comes to the charts, the news, the expansion. And I've been here longer, or at least streaked longer than anybody around the world. I guarantee nobody else covering XRP's done it every day for over 5 years plus without taking a day off. I guarantee it. I could be in the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest streak ever put together covering XRP because the normal person would go insane, batshit crazy. But again, that doesn't hold as much weight to a hype viewer because I say realistic targets. If we can hold the all-time cup and handle, we know out of this descending wedge, and then ultimately out of the cup, the target's $6.51. Now, are you going to watch with somebody who says the next bull market target is $6.51 if we hold properly? Or is everybody going to watch out of the hype sector somebody who continuously says $10,000 next year or next month or next week? Notice these times keep passing, but they still come back for more because they can't help themselves. I can buy now because it's going to 10,000. So, I mean, we can talk reality all we want. And that's the reality of the circumstance. It's not just crypto, it's everything. Hype sells. Sex sells. Skimpy clothing sells on an attractive woman. You know, roids sells to show bigger muscle in men. You know how many women are influencers in fitness who are super muscular, super skinny, and they're, oh, I'm natural. Bull fucking shit. You haven't been natural since the day you started working out. You can tell. Shoulders are a dead giveaway in people, okay? Looking more like a man in the face is a dead giveaway because it changes your chemistry in your body. But look at the shoulders. You get people with these well-defined shoulders. That's the number one giveaway from anabolics and trend. But people don't want to acknowledge it. They just say, oh, this person's natural. Whatever helps you sleep at night. And then you get the people that say, oh, well, the normal person in the gym just doesn't work as hard. I got news for you. I work just as hard as somebody on the anabolics, and I have 75% less muscle in the same time frame. Not because I'm not dedicated and working hard. You all know my dedication. I did an hour and 15 minutes of weightlifting a day. It's because they're artificially ruining their body to have gains. I don't even know how that makes sense. It's the same thing. I can correlate it with crypto. How does it make sense to poison your body to make yourself look better? So you're killing your insides to try to have a little more muscle or a little less fat? It's insane. It's insane. It's like everybody on GLP-1. The weight loss fucking injection. Ozempic. But what they don't tell you is it's got snake venom in it. And you're sacrificing muscle tissues, fat. Yes, you get rid of fat. You know why you get rid of fat and you're not hungry? It paralyzes your intestines. Did you know that? It's a secret warning that you have to dig deeper to find. It causes your intestinal tract to go into paralysis, which means there's no movement. So you can correlate it to any sector. Now, when you go to crypto, is it beneficial to hear everybody say it's going like this summer to $50? So now when it goes to the actual target at the end of the year or beginning of next year, if it does go to 651, people go, oh, well, it's not 50. And how many people have you heard say, XRP is a joke and it needs to go over $1,000 to even make it worth buying? Like, what the fuck? That's how inept retail is becoming because of all of the nonsensical stuff being put out. It's insane. It's insane. Like sports athletes, everybody says they're not on steroids. Every single one of them are. That's how they got the elite advantage. There's not a single sports athlete that is not on steroids in 2026. Zero. Whether it's for recovery, muscle, weight loss, they're on it. Every single one of them. LeBron James has been taking roids since he was in middle school, I bet you. And people will tell you until they're blue in the face, they're not on roids. Okay, well, you go do the same thing and tell me what happens in a year. But yeah, these people are putting on 25 pounds of muscle in 6 months, but they're not taking anything. You know, so it's not just this, it's every sector and every walk of life. You're either going to be manipulated into believing the lie, or you're going to rise above it. Elmer, that's the exact thing. Why is the guy who doesn't go to the doctor healthier than the guy who does? Why does the guy who supposedly has cancer lives 3 decades before he knows he has it and then is dead in 6 months while taking, while in hospice? And you know what's funny? It's always the same routine. A year and a half, 2 years, they put you through all this hardcore chemo and radiation. Insurance stops covering it after a year or two. They say there's nothing else we can do. We've drained your entire health savings account and all of your finances, and now you go to hospice and get poisoned and die. I've watched it happen to way too many people, including my aunt, who I miss dearly. But nobody, she didn't want to, she didn't listen to what I was trying to say. And I mean, just weigh it against. Matthew 17:21. However, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. The truth is undefeated, folks, and that's why we have such a strong core members. Notice we can stay in the 70 and 80 person range now, regardless of what the market's doing. Back in 23 in the bear market, I'd be talking to 30 to 40 people at this exact same time. Might get 300 to 400 views per live. Now at least it's 600 to 700 views. So there is a difference. But, that's because all of you are trying to find a way to find the channel. I guarantee no one's getting the notifications. And if you are, it's not telling you the right time, or it's giving you it days later. I didn't even get my notification again for today's live, which is kind of sad. But, we got a lot of stuff we can talk about. We have a lot of stuff. But the truth is the truth, no matter what walk of life you're on. Your time of day also puts you head to head with the crypto lifer. True. I feel the live's coming my superpower. I appreciate that, Carl. Last bull run I did, I went from 30 to 50,000 subscribers, roughly. Well, 30 to 40. But my actual lives, some of you remember, we were having 500 and 600 people, at least 300 people in every single live we would have at one time. And we were getting 3,000 to 5,000 views on the lives. But every single bear market, it's always the same thing. I front run the bear market when everybody's like, you promise you're going to tell us when we're going to drop. You promise. And I always say yes. And then it's going to cost me 50 to 75% of my audience. And people are like, no, it's not. No, it's not, Tom. No, it's not. I've been like, hey, I've been here before. 1 year ago when I put out that warning about 15 months ago. Now look at the view count. I'm getting 20% of that views on the live now. Then I did it again in a few days later and I had 4,800 after the market started dropping again. Look at the difference in viewership. Because I wanted to tell the truth and not hype people up into bullshit. So, that's just what happened. So maybe I'll just go back to my imagery where it's just my XRP diamond hand so I don't have to do random imagery anymore. I think that's what I like in the lives. Just go to the diamond hands approach. And just keep that image up there. So I could show you every single piece of content I've ever done and the difference. And that's when I first started telling people the bull market were over in January of 25. And I said, yeah, XRP is going to come back up and you're going to have one more chance to sell after it crashes out, which it did, down to $1.62. Then it went to $3.70 and just crashed out to where we're at now. But look at the difference. You would think I'd have 3 times as many viewers as that because people are like, holy shit. He got us in the bear market. He got us in the bull market top out in 21. Got us back in the bear market low of 23. Told us in 25 and nobody wanted to say it that we're ending the bull market. And got us out at the top. And now he's lining us up again and we're down 66%, but we didn't have to sit in it. You would think people would be rushing to the channel, but guess what? It's a lot different. It's a lot different. But the difference is now we're building up a core. See, even back then, I didn't feel it as strongly as I do now, the importance of building up core members and people that can push out the information. That's the main reason I started classes. So many people wanted to know more. Oh, absolutely they do. Absolutely. But people, hey, there's 85 people in it right now. People come. And they'll stay. People will stay. The hype viewers will leave. People will, the core will stay, and then the goal is to advance into the core side of things. That's why, like today, I'm more focused. Like I can talk like this without swearing. I can talk like this without yelling. But when I talk like this, I'm more cynical because I speak more factual things and I can tie things in together. I'm very witty. So, I mean, look at what I got to fucking deal with these people with XRP. Look at these schmoes. This is what I get to deal with every day. You type in XRP, Goldman Sachs reveals massive exposure, big news today. Horseshit, that was shared weeks ago. I shared it on Facebook. That ain't today. More FUD. Very good XRP news. More FUD. There was no good news coming. Cops delaying Clarity Act. Not true. It's not the cops. It's falling apart. Clarity Act confirmed. Like, now everybody's all about the Clarity Act. Nobody knows what the hell's really going on. Look how many people watch Jay Claver. 39,000 views for him. That schmuck. But this is what I'm talking about. People will watch what they want to watch. XRP to peak $20+. And 13,000 views. XRP to 100, 19,000 views. All this stuff you will never believe, guys. This stuff you'll never believe. 20,000 views. Even smaller channels, XRP to 5,000. 10,000, you know, it's always the same stuff. Always the same stuff. Clarity Act, Clarity Passing, Clarity Act, all bullshit. You never see somebody put on here besides me, the Clarity Act kills retail because it hands the power away from the retail holder to the institution and banks. Nobody says that. Nobody says that. So, it's always the same thing. It's always the same thing. So how am I supposed to watch all of this? All this is, every single thing I've scrolled past is all complete horseshit. Even when somebody tries to give a real price target, it's all bullcrap. No, the views is just somebody clicks on it even for 3 seconds. It's considered a view. Anybody who actually clicks on your channel. You don't have to watch the whole video. They can click on it for 1 second. 1 second. But think about it. Look at how much fear. The whole point of going through that and saying that. Look how much FOMO, how much FUD, how much fear is attracting the hype viewers. And then you wonder why 95% of people lose money in crypto. Well, 95% of the influencers are pushing out fake. Probably 99%. Honestly, I can't even think of another XRP influencer that does it the way I do it. Who only talks about the way I talk about it. There's always an agenda. And that's the most frustrating part for me being in this space. The entire space is all bullshit. Nobody honestly ever tells the truth. And I don't even think they know the truth anymore. They go on their fancy AI and say, what's the algorithm speak today? And what do I have to put in here to get FOMO views? Or what do I have to put on here to get the hype views? Watch. I could do it. I can do exactly what they do.
To capture that high-energy, hype audience that wants to see XRP succeed, you need to lean into scarcity, urgency,
and then you start to look at what people are putting.
These viewers aren't looking for a balance.
XRP, the last chance to buy under $5. Don't say I didn't warn you. Just start thinking of the titles you're seeing from people. Emergency. XRP liquidity crisis imminent. $10 plus incoming. XRP, the 24-hour countdown has begun. The IMF secretly just picked XRP. Price explosion confirmed. I mean, look at all this. Does this look familiar to some of the titles you see? XRP to $589. The mathematical proof they aren't showing you. Forget $10. Why XRP is destined for triple digits. XRP is the new Bitcoin. Why $1,000 is the ultimate endgame. The next NVIDIA, why XRP will be the best performing asset of 26. Doesn't some of these titles sound familiar to what you're scrolling through? I mean, come on. Because these are the ones that push in today's algorithm. Yeah, I don't watch that. I don't watch her at all. She's such a doofus. They all are. And again, she's one that people watch because she will show a little bit of sex appeal. Has no real information, zero. But gets 10 times the views I get. Believe it. The final warning strategy, like that's it. And then it's either you only watch my channel or you watch all the hype channels. There's really no in between. But look at XRP right now. Last chance until it gets over $5. Really? It's going to be a triple digit token. Why the math says 589? Like, come on now. Okay, fine. You want to know why the math says you're full of shit even in today's terms? Here we go. You want to see why that's a lie and you see it everywhere? $589, right? So we have, let's just say we have 65 billion tokens right now, which it'll be 100 million at some point, times $589. So you have dollars, thousands, millions, billions, trillions. So you're telling me XRP is going to be at a $38 trillion, $285 billion market cap. Okay, XRP's market cap today, 83 billion. So you want me to believe we're going to create 34 billion 917 billion dollars in market cap by the end of the summer? Every time Jake the Claver or Jake the Deceiver, who got sued because of it many times, he's telling you it's going to go to 1,000. $65 trillion. Remember, dollars, thousands, millions, billions, trillions. So he's telling you $65 trillion the market cap is going to go to. Okay, smartasses who talk about this. Do you show me where? The entire crypto space has $2.43 trillion. So you're telling me XRP is going to gain 30 times the entire crypto market. I mean, it's pathetic. Even at $100 is 6 point. That's 3 times the amount of total money in crypto today. How is that? That's not possible. It's not possible. They say, oh, you don't understand the multiplier. The multiplier. I'm glad, because that's such a line of horseshit. I've never heard. Wow. So anyhow, that's it. Yeah, but XRP market cap. But you notice, just speaking that truth, look how many hype viewers left just now. That's the point. You want to point people in the right direction, they just leave. 11 people left because I talked about the truth about the XRP market cap. That's the point. That's the point. So the one thing I can promise all of you is if you continue to watch and keep faith in what I do, we're going to be the only ones left standing in the end anyhow. So does the hype viewer even matter? They're going to be holding a sign probably on the side of the road saying, I lost all my money. I'll suck your dick for money for more XRP or something stupid like that. Like, that's what's going to end up happening. You know, it just, do you want to have to blow somebody to make it by to tomorrow, or do you want to actually be a real investor? That's what you got to ask yourselves. Do you want to sell a kidney to make it? Or do you want to be able to buy someone's kidney? Not that you would. But the point is, do you want to be the one giving it out or getting it back? For every dollar lost is another hour we have to work. It's the bottom line. So, You can either believe it or not, you know, but it's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth. So the only thing that matters to me, like I've been saying now, and it's why I can change my mind approach, is the core members. It's the truth. The core members are everything to me. As long as 60 or 70, 80, 100, I don't care how many it is. As long as you guys continue to show up, I'm going to have a very profound reason to come here. I'm still going to come here every single day. But it gives me a better feel, a better feeling. But I'm going to start putting my XRP diamond hands photo for the imagery for my lives, just so we can all maintain a focus. Hey, we're live. We're showing the diamond hands badge, period. And then we can remember what the end game is for. And it's not just because it's diamond hands. I believe we're a diamond in the rough, and that will be a good way for me to continue to push that. I actually personally like that photo, and I'm going to start sharing that photo a lot more. Somebody made it for me in the audience as well. It's the appeal, Tom. We're not pretty enough or tell people what they want to hear. I know. I know. Although, the one good thing that I can say about this channel is the average crypto influencer's female audience base, assuming they're not a female already, but a female audience base is about 2 to 3%. My channel, even though we have 50,000 plus people, is over 10% female base. So that tells me that we're at least hitting something, or at least hitting the right viability, so that even the female audience that aren't necessarily known to be investors and things, they want to take control of their financial future too, and they're coming here for a reason. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm an attractive person, maybe I appeal to people, maybe being 42 and having hair speaks volumes, maybe getting in the gym and, you know, putting on some muscle helps. You know, I don't know what exactly it is, but I would like to think it's faith. I would like to think it's trust and honesty, integrity. You lost 50,000 followers on Instagram when I stopped posting gym videos and started warning people we were about to see it. Absolutely. It's those diamond balls. I love it. Yeah, the lake house is the ultimate objective. And we're going to get there one day. I know it. But the problem is like even people like Brad Garlinghouse, you know, when I called them out and said, everybody, and I talked about John Deaton, I lost 300 people in one day as subscribers when I called John Deaton a scumbag. And I brought out proof of what he was actually doing. People couldn't stomach it. And then he actually did it. And I was talking about he was going to have some kind of political run. And this was a way for him to move money from us to him. That's what happened. He didn't win, but he still tried. But anyhow, I got to go. It's been a great live. Almost 2 hours. See, this was great. This was great. Somebody said they lost $40,000 watching the hype channels. And that's why they're here. That is a good compliment for me. I wish you would have found me sooner. But, you know, I've helped people rebuild themselves from a big loss and help them get back in the positive. Cannabis Podcast said, I played 3 sports in college and everyone bigger than me was on something, period. All of them. Sammy Sosa McGuire were totally natural, fun to watch. I know. And I'm not against them being on roids, but don't lie to us. I take my vitamins. Okay. You take your vitamins. Well, you didn't get that big from vitamins. I'm actually proud of what I've accomplished over the last 4 years with my body. You know, I look completely different when I first started YouTube, and that was completely different than what I looked like in high school. I was a big 265 pounds in high school. Even when I came on YouTube, I was probably 195, 200. But I didn't have any muscle. I stopped working out in the gym. And now after the last 4 years of working out, I completely changed the complexion. I'm like 175, maybe 180 now because of the added muscle. But I don't look anything like I did when I first started. For one, my hair is the big difference too. I've grown my hair out, which will be, believe it or not, 3 years in July since my last haircut. Um, but yeah. You like that I smoked weed years ago? Absolutely. That's a big part of like me making sure my health, like my pain tolerance is good because I don't want to take pain pills and all that. However, I haven't smoked as much in the last couple of months as you know, a little bit, but it's been hard for me because the chemicals are so bad that it's been hard to find real stuff. Now, when I grow it in the summer, it'll be a different story. Um, Unfortunately, one of my friends I know, um, he's he's got a little growing thing where he doesn't believe in the chemicals and stuff. Still uses some things I wouldn't, but it's not the same as what you would find in a general cannabis shop. And you know what the biggest problem that most people do when they're growing? They use something like Big Bud, which it makes the buds bigger, but it's a GMO base. It's getting big for a reason. You also get people that put in artificial stuff to give it more crystals and to give it more resiny base. Well, that all comes at a cost. It all comes at a cost. High output of chemicals. Sure, it might smell better. Sure, it might be a little bit bigger or more weight. But at what cost? Kind of sounds like a steroid, right? That you give yourself. You know what's funny? For a lot of my life, guano, I used to think when I would see the spelling, because I never really looked into it when I was younger, I used to think quinoa was guano. So whenever I would say quinoa and something, I'd say, I'm not eating that. It's got bad shit in it. I swear. I thought that for so long. Way too long. I used to, I used to think guano and quinoa was the same thing because I never looked at the spelling. So every time I would see it, I'd be like, why? What? I'm not eating that. It's got... And then all of a sudden one day, I don't know who told me. I know Julie re-emphasized it like, hey, quinoa is different than guano. But when I met Julie too, I used to call acetaminophen acetophene, and nobody ever corrected me in my childhood. No doctor, no pharmacist. And one time I'm like, I have acetophene, and Julie's like, you have what? And I said acetophene. She goes, it's acetaminophen. And when I looked at it, I'm like, I'll be damned, it is acetaminophen. That's why nobody ever, you know? So, I would like to believe it's because some of my family members had strong Italian accents, so they didn't care either way. Especially my grandpa. So, like, some of my influential people when I was younger, they didn't even know how to speak real English to begin with. So some of it, I think, was a language barrier growing up. But... see, I can be honest about even myself being stupid, but that's what I mean. Education is key. And no one's going to tell you what you want to hear. They're just going to continue to let you push the false narrative and probably laugh at you behind your back. But yeah, that's a funny story, actually. Those are fun times. But see, look at us. We're just talking. Truffles have isopropyl in there. More than Rick Simpson oil. No shit. Wow. I'm not opposed to people using gear. I used it after I got out of the military with some bad back and muscle injuries. It definitely helped rebuild but yeah, but here's the thing. I also have significant back injuries. Well, I don't want to say and thank you for your service. But I also broke my back. I always will have this fracture in my lower back. I have the herniation in the L4, L5. I have the disc degeneration disease and a lot of other things that come along with it. And I too could be a candidate for steroids. They would give me them. But listen, it doesn't matter what dosage you use. And that's the lie. You're not lying, but this is what you've been misled to believe. No matter how small the dosage, it's changing your body's chemistry. And that comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. Low dosages, I agree, will be less impactful, but it always comes at a loss. There's nothing you can put into your body, especially an anabolic, that has no risk. There's always a risk. You may not see it initially or even for decades if you're using low dosages, but it tends to mess with your heart. Notice, any roid makes a muscle bigger. What's the biggest muscle in your body? Does anybody know? Because an anabolic can't just target the muscles in your arms or your shoulders or your chest. Yes, the heart. And you're right, pain medicine, that's why I don't take them either. That's why I would smoke cannabis, which is even becoming suspect. So now it's to the oils that don't have any of the added BS into it. But the biggest muscle in the body is the heart. So what do you think gets attacked the most, even on low dosages of roids? Same thing. And you're never going to get a person using it that says they don't believe in it. Blood work can be deceiving. The blood work doesn't actually look into the internal workings of the vascular system. But yeah, blood work is key to try to stay on top of it, but it's not going to slow it down. Blood work isn't the end-all be-all. They often use blood work to... I don't even want to get into that part of it, because then I'll probably get banned. But no, keep it at a low dose. I appreciate the fact you're not overdoing it. And I can understand why you're doing it, especially being injured, you know, serving your country and things like that. But anything that changes the chemical makeup is very detrimental to the human anatomy. And when you take a roid, there's no going back. You're always going to have to take it. That's the untold secret. You take it once, you're going to take it a billion times because your chemistry is different. Absolutely. Tren. Absolutely. Tren is very bad too. Very, very bad. It really is. And you'll know anybody who's abusing Tren because they get the Tren shoulders. That's what all the women are. A lot of the women you see have these big shoulders and very small biceps and triceps. Oh, they look great. Oh, yeah, they look great. All right, they look like a dude. Women aren't supposed to have big fucking shoulders like that. Plus, you notice the facial features change over time with people on anabolics, especially Tren and some of the... You know what? Another big one for women was Winstrol back in the day. And that's been circumvented with other things. But a lot of the women athletes just be on Winstrol, and you'd be like, well, wow, how do they look so skinny? Or a lot of the models and bikinis. And now they've switched from Winstrol, and they'll take their Tren and their anabolics at the same time they take GLP-1. Which is unbelievable. People, hey, I want to teach you about fitness. No, you don't. You just want to make as much money as possible off the supplements that don't work. The most laughable thing about people on roids as an influencer is what do they push? Their own supplemental line that they don't even take. Take my protein, take my supplements because look how big I am. Motherfucker, if you even believed in your own products, you wouldn't be taking roids. Like, don't even push that nonsense. I know people are leaving because I keep saying I'm leaving and then I'm here 2 hours now. But I really do have to leave. But I've been watching the market as it started to reverse down a little bit. And all the warnings I heeded when I seen that first run up with some things where now it's starting to come back down. And what I do, like Elmer said, is I eat one real meal a day is dinner. I haven't eaten anything yet today because I fast 16 hours a day. Now everybody tells me I don't need to lose any more weight, but you know, you're always speculative. But it does heal your body, Elmer, just like you said. After 13 hours of not eating, your body starts to, the cortisol levels change, and then it attacks fat storage. Not your muscle, but your fat storage. After, I think it's 13 hours. By the time you get to 16, you know, you go into something even deeper. But that's why I do that. And like I eat technically 2 meals a day, but my lunchtime meal consists of my protein isolate, which has no carbs in it, nothing else besides the whey protein isolate, which I think the isolate is the best kind of protein you can take. And then I mix that with a little bit of vanilla bean powder, but a real vanilla bean, which only has 10 calories, and the whole damn thing is like 50 calories if you dump the whole thing, which I don't advise it because it's like 100 or 200 servings. Very low content when it comes to sugars and all that. And then I put the peanut butter powder in with it. And I can make myself about a 30 to 35 grams of protein in it with less than 5 grams of carbs and things like that. And that's how I start the day, because I don't want high sugars or anything like that, because then you crave it the rest of the day. Try to eat a piece of candy as the first thing. All you're going to think about the rest of the day is eating candy. Eat a chip. All you're going to think about is carbs. You know, so... How do you get around the not eating? Well, honestly, it's hard at first, the 16 hours, but here's the way I look at it. The reason I do it from 12 to 8, usually it's about 12:30 or 1 to 9 p.m. is my eating window. The way you get around it, not on 65 hours, but on 65 hours, you need to do salt and water. Real salt. You can use Himalayan salt. You can use some other kind of salt. But you got to make sure you get the sodium so that your body can have the proper electrolytes and things like that to not go and be so... Celtic salt. There you go. Celtic's the best way. Absolutely. I actually need to buy some. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. I have pink Himalayan salt that I've been doing a study with, that if I ever have a headache now, I'll mix 1 teaspoon and let it dissolve into the water, 8 ounces. And I've noticed it's made a big change when you have a headache. It makes a change. Those Celtics salt. But it does. They all make a difference. They all make a difference. And then not everything's created equally. So you've also got to look at the ingredient list and see what they're trying to do, and yada, 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 so on and so forth. Because everybody's got a hidden agenda. Let's see. Plus, Celtic salt gives you a lot of your key minerals too, which is good. So, but yeah, there's a lot of things we can do. It's just, are we going to do it? Are we going to do it? But yeah, I love the audience when we get into talks like this. This is probably my favorite talks we get into. There's so many people that know so much stuff in this community. And I think that's important, incredibly important. Incredibly important. Honestly, you have no idea how... I think a lot of people have no idea how important this stuff is. It's extremely important. I guess that's it, everybody. I think we've covered everything. If I'm being honest, I think we're good. I think we're good. We even got outside of ourselves a little bit today, which is awesome. I love it. And I can't thank you all enough, to be honest with you. So... be blessed, everybody. It's been an honor and a privilege to spend over 2 hours with you as we see the prices back and forth, back and forth. Still trying to figure itself out. Ironically, right when Bitcoin came to that 73.5 area, it immediately reversed back down. But that's just, it could be clearing out space. 4 hourly did put in, or 2 hourly had a little bit of volume. But yeah, we'll just have to keep watching this. Hopefully tonight I can come back. No guarantee it's going to be It's going to be completely up to my son, but if I have a chance, I'll come back tonight. Be blessed, everybody. And yeah, it's incredibly important to take care of yourself and to stay healthy. And most people just don't care enough to do it until there's something wrong. And by then it's too late. Be blessed, everybody. Just like with your portfolio. Most people don't care about it in the bear market. And by the time they care, it's already too late. It's already too late. So be part of the 5%, not part of the 95%. Because if you become part of the 5%, and there's not a lot of room for the 5%, we'll be able to succeed in a way that you